Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thanks for coming tonight.
There are 5 council members present, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Collins is absent, and Councilmember Tilton Burns will be arriving late.
Thank you. All right, item 3, approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
All right, item 4, enter into an executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2.3, consulting with legal counsel or reviewing communications from legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters. Entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 We are in executive session. Okay, we'll start the regular meeting now. Item 5, open forum. In order to provide equal access to all during the open forum, each member offering comments during the open forum shall not exceed the allotted 3-minute period. Your time to comment is expired when the red light on the podium appears. No further comments may be made by a member speaking during the open forum after the red light appears. That being said, is there any member from the public that wishes to address the council on a topic that's not on tonight's agenda? Okay, close the open forum. Consent agenda, approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Does the council have any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tildenburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran.
Aye.
Okay, presentations and reports. We have 2 proclamations tonight, and the first one I would like to invite Bonnie and Deshawn, our city clerk and deputy city clerk, up to the mic. It's on. Mayoral proclamation, whereas the office of the city clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the city clerk provides the professional link between the citizens and agencies of government, serving as an information center, and whereas the city clerk is pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the main duties of the city clerk include preparing the council agendas and minutes, maintaining ordinance and resolutions files, keeping the official records of the city, conducting local elections, and processing licenses. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Ope G. Niemeyer, Mayor of the City of Brookings, do hereby proclaim April 30 through May 6, 2023 as City Clerk Week. And an extended appreciation to Bonnie Foster, our City Clerk, and our Deputy City Clerk, Deshawn Scott, who act as a cornerstone of our City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bonnie. Did you get a picture? Did you get a picture, Sarah? Did you get a picture? All right. I was told to make sure. All right, Arbor Day. Mayoral proclamation, whereas trees significantly affect the quality of life of the citizens in our community, and whereas our community forests must be perpetuated so as to provide the benefits of aesthetics, shade, energy conservation, noise reduction, and community livability, whereas those who settled in the prairie had the foresight and courage to plant trees that we now enjoy, let us also have the same foresight and courage to plant and care for trees for the sake of our children and our children's children. And whereas it's desirable that schools, civic organizations, news media, youth and senior citizens groups participate in programs and ceremonies within our community, and that will emphasize trees in their planting and their care. Now there be it resolved that I, Ope G. Niemeyer, Mayor of the City of Brookings, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 28, 2023 as Arbor Day, and encourage our citizens to participate in celebration of this occasion, which looks forward to the future. And we're given a personal invitation. Is it in Pioneer Park? Correct? Is it in Pioneer Park where they're going to plant a tree on Saturday?
Correct.
What time?
To be determined.
To be determined. So if you want to be part of that, kind of watch the website in the city. Thank you. Okay, he's already up there. This is our new SDSU public address, government addresser, Michael Garofalo. I'm going to say that's right.
Yeah, you got it right on the first try. Defeat. Okay. All right. All right. So good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Just to refresh you guys, I'm Michael Garofalo, the Government Affairs Chair on the SDSU Students Association, and we have had a busy couple of weeks since the last time we talked. As far as legislation goes, considered over the last 2 weeks, we've only had 2 amendments considered just as we're getting a little more comfortable conducting business as a new Senate. We passed one at our meeting last night to ensure confidentiality is maintained in our Finance Committee, and we tabled another amendment pertaining to election bylaws and campaign material bylaws. Moving into campus updates, there's some pretty big ones, so I am very happy to announce that a new site for the South Dakota Art Museum has been selected. It'll be just east of the Oscar Larson Performing Arts Center with a targeted completion date of 2028. The building project is primarily driven by donor interest, but it's something that the university has had its eyes on for a long time, so we're really excited to see that. Also, kind of on that side of campus, we just received a $600,000 grant for an addition to our disc golf course and some other landscaping projects in and around McCrory Gardens. We're anticipating needing to raise approximately $800,000 in matching fees, so we'll get started on that right away. SCSU is also having our annual Don't Dump, Donate program, which encourages students moving out of the dorms at the end of the year to donate items instead of throwing them away. Revolutionary concept. But we have a record number of volunteers this year, and we're very excited for that event to happen at the end of next week. Speaking of the end of next week, other events to look forward to include commencement, which is going to be held Saturday, May 6th at the Swiftel Center. Over 3 different ceremonies at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. You can check the SDSU website for information on which colleges will graduate at those ceremonies. Closing notes include that we are currently looking to resolve issues regarding a potential violation of our code of ethics by our current president pertaining to an arrest which occurred 2 weeks ago. We're handling that internally as a Senate, but as more information becomes available, we will release that via our own websites, our agendas, and the SDSU Collegian also is following the matter. So if that is something you're interested in, do please stay tuned. We're interested to get the matter resolved quickly. And in addition to this, there's some other news for SDSU overall. In light of the fact that I myself was recently elected president of the SDSU, or the South Dakota Student Federation, which is a group of the presidents and vice presidents of the state school student governments that convene when the Board of Regents meets to discuss strategy for lobbying and policymaking from a higher education standpoint. So I'm really excited to start that new position this summer, get the ball rolling on some new social media, new outreach, just getting our names out there again after a couple of years of rebuilding in terms of organization and structure. And it's also going to be a great way for SDSU and the campus community in Brookings to have a more prominent seat at the table when we're talking about higher education in the state. Before I get to entertaining questions, I'd also like to give a shout out to my mom who turned 50 today. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. And with that, my report is concluded, so I will stand by for any comments or questions that you guys might have.
Michael, will you be here at the first May meeting, or?
Yes, that is my plan, sir.
Okay, that should be all of our presentations and reports. Item A, contracts and change orders. Item 8A, action on resolution 23-039, a resolution of intent to lease real property, Rural Technologies Incorporated. Mike Struck, our community development director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 23-039 is a resolution of intent to lease real property to Rural Technologies Incorporated at the Research and Technology Center located at 801 32nd Avenue. RTI has been a tenant at the Research 13. Currently, they are our only tenant in the space. The area on the overhead is outlined in red. That is the area they are proposing to extend their lease into for cold storage space. They have the garage space and cold storage space immediately adjacent to the south of that highlighted area. They're proposing the same terms as the cold storage space of $4 a square foot on a month-to-month lease. All the existing terms and conditions would still apply. And so if acceptable, staff does recommend approval of the lease, and it is consistent with your whereby the city would receive some additional revenues from this lease. It would generate a little over 4,000 on an annual basis. Currently, it's unutilized space, and so it's an existing tenant. Just trying to help them out with some cold storage space. I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Entertain a motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does council have any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Specker,
Aye.
Tildenburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye. Item 8B, action on resolution 23-041, a resolution awarding the bid on airport pavement maintenance and rehabilitation project, AIP number 3-46-0005-037-2023. Charlie Richter, our city engineer, will present this item.
Good evening, council. I'm here tonight, 41 for the award of the Brookings Airport Pavement Maintenance and Rehabilitation Project contingent upon an FAA grant offer. This bid is for crack sealing, seal coat, and pavement markings for runway 17-35, numerous taxiways, hangar taxi lanes at the airport. Bids for this project were opened on April 18th, where we received 5 bids from companies located across the country. Farner Asphalt Sealers, low bid of $156,757 more than the engineer's estimate. Staff recommends approval of the resolution to award the bid to Farner Asphalt Sealers pending grant approval from the
Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does council have any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Tildenburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
All right, item 9, public hearings and second readings. Item 9A, public hearing and action on resolution 23-037, a resolution levying assessment for alley assessment project number 2022-04 STA between 3rd Street to 4th Street, connecting 8th Avenue and 9th Avenue. Charlie Richter will also present this item.
Resolution 23-37 for the levying of assessment for alley assessment 2022-04 STA for an alley between 3rd Street and 4th Street connecting 8th and 9th Avenues. On May 10th of last year, City Council approved the resolution of necessity for this project to pave this alley. Public Works proceeded last summer with the design and construction of this project, and now that the project is complete, the city is proceeding with assessment of the properties that abut this alley. In accordance with South Dakota municipal law, abutters to the alley were notified, and notice of the public hearing for this alley roll was published in the register. All abutters were notified of the proposed assessment costs at that time. City staff recommends approval of the alley assessment roll as presented in this resolution.
To approve.
So moved.
Second.
Public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Does the council have any questions or comments? Charlie, from what I understand, the assessment is less than what we had anticipated.
That is correct.
Excellent. That's all I got to say. Please call the roll.
Wendell,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tildenburn.
Aye.
Item 9B, public hearing and action on resolution 23-036, a resolution to amend the 2040 Comprehensive Plan's future land use map. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
The item before you tonight is an amendment to our comprehensive plan, in particular our future land use map. The proposal south, it's approximately the north 2.85 acres in what will be known as the Branch Creek development. The current future land use identifies this area as a medium density residential, and the proposal is to amend it to allow an urban medium The plan on the very north end is an opportunity to incorporate some B2 zoning for some neighborhood commercial. The Planning Commission and the Development Review Team both support the map amendment request, and I would stand for any questions that you may have on this.
Thanks, Mike. Entertain a motion.
Move.
Second.
Been moved and second. Is there any public comment on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to clarify this only in regards to the future land use map amendment. It is not related to the zoning items that will be coming up after this item later in the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, does council have any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tildenburn,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10, ordinances, first readings. Item 10A, introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-017, an ordinance authorizing budget amendment number 4 to the 2023 budget. Ashley Wrench, our Senior Finance Manager, will present this item.
Council, this is ordinance 23-017, authorizing amendment number 4 to the 2023 budget. This amendment creates a capital project fund and basin in tax increment district number 9 for stormwater management adjacent to the property recently transferred to Milbourne Seeds. This project is expected to cost approximately $510,000, including design and construction, and will be initially funded with economic development reserves, with tax increment revenues refunding those reserves. This project will directly benefit land intended for economic development in the agriculture sector, which is consistent with the city's economic development master plan. The second reading of this ordinance will be May 9th, and with that, I'll stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, does the council have any questions or comments at this time? All right, we'll move on. Item 10B, introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-012, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, 20.28 acres along 20th Street South. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Ordinance is a rezoning request for a portion of property located between the Fishback Soccer Complex and the Bluegill Addition just south of 20th Street South. The proposal is shown in the highlighted area on the map in yellow. It's a that is currently zoned ag, and the proposed zoning is R3, which is the name of it is like an apartment residential district. In conjunction with this proposed rezoning, at your next meeting, you will see a large-scale residential development plan that will be coming forward. So it's kind of a timing issue. Ordinances are done by first and second readings. The LSRD is just simply a motion and action item. So we time them so that the LSRD is approved in conjunction with the approval of the rezoning. And so unfortunately, you don't see the total development pattern here. It was presented at the Planning Commission, but I'm going to switch over to a GIS system to show a little bit of the area we're talking about. So kind of in my cursor area, you're looking at this area where my cursor is going south. Our future land use map identifies this area as medium density residential, very similar to the Bluegill addition to the east, the Windermere addition to the north, and even further to the northeast, the Moriarty Edgebrook addition, the Reserve addition, and Prairie Hills addition further to the west. It's very consistent with the residential densities in this particular area of the community. This is something that the Planning Commission and the Development Review Team have both evaluated, and it does come forward to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission for approval of rezoning this to a R3 zoning district. With that, I would stand for any questions.
Are there any? Please come to the mic and introduce yourself,
Would
name and
you,
address.
I guess, would you prefer that it stays on this particular map, or would you want to go
Yeah,
back
right
to
there.
the
Right there is
presentation?
good.
All right.
My name's Boyd Eisenbrown. Circle on the east side there, down on the bottom. And I guess I'm concerned about the residential number 3, but the drawing there, I see a line right about the top of the circle. What is that line?
This right
Nope,
here.
down, right there. What's that line? What's that?
Oh, that's within our GIS system. It's just basically a geographic informational systems. They created polygons. This is a polygon here, and then this is a polygon here. They overlap.
Okay. All right, I just
So-
want to make sure that's not a road or something. you're
No,
trying to put in there.
it's just the polygon drawings on the map with our system. So
Well, just to talk about residential number 3, and I know you're talking about townhomes and everything, but I mean, I have a lot of college kids that live on Bluegill right there. So my little house that's on the corner of the street there, the wintertime, because you can't park on the east side of the road, or on the west side of the road, I have a lot of cars parked in front of my house in the wintertime. So snow removal is a pain, okay? So I'm gonna recommend you don't make it R3 because I don't want an apartment complex. I don't want a lot more. The vehicle traffic in that circle is unbelievable at this time. I mean, I could sit there at night and watch 15, 20, 30 cars at night come, turn around a circle and go back out. I don't want more traffic, okay? There's a lot of little kids in there too. More traffic is gonna be a big thing. So I would just recommend that, R3 is probably not the best thing for this place. If you're gonna build apartment buildings, don't build them down on this end. So I've only lived there for a year. I don't know the water issues. I've seen water issues, but so that's my public comments. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Anyone else want to make a public statement?
Quite slowly.
Please state your name, Frank. and your
I
address.
didn't, I'm a little bit concerned about the
Frank?
situation there. What? Oh, speak my name for the record. Frank Kurtenbach. I'm in the, down at the end of the circle there and by the pond. I'm a little concerned about, as I've been around since about the middle 50s off and on, and I see what's happened over on 22nd, that trailer court. Now we're looking at building, or somebody's looking at building, a number of small units in that area. Who's going to police that area with a dense population of are they all independently owned, or are there going to be rentals? Can that question be answered?
Yes, it's going to be independent owned, Frank.
Independently
It will
owned.
be dense housing.
So who's going to be in charge of trying to police that area when we stick a bunch of people in that close together? And we all know that the trailer court was either a drug center or a gun center, or both. Between murders and drug use, it's been a horrible situation for the last 20 years. That was there when I was in school in 57, I mean. And so that's 80 years old. And those units were put in at that time with a duration, kind of a life duration of about 10 years. There's some of them that are 80 years old and they're still, I understand it's going to be moved out, but that was not a good situation. So it's just across the section there, and we're looking at putting in many homes, as I understand, independently owned. So you're going to have some confrontation between neighbors if they're that close together, and nobody is in charge of taking care of that area. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I'm a little bit concerned about the amount of concrete, asphalt, and roofing that's going to be down that 20-acre strip, because I know what happens over in front of my house coming down the next street. Water cannot be handled by the sewage system or the above-ground sewage system, so it runs between my house and my neighbor's house like a creek when you get over an inch of rain. And it gets pretty close to my garage door once in a while. I'll have 2x4s and stuff that roll up in the front yard above the water goes above the sidewalk. So I'd like to have you folks come down, we'll take a walk and take a look at that property and how that might happen over in this other area. I guess my time's up.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Bluegill Circle right next to Frank and some of the others that have spoken today. One thing that was surprising to us is that they wanted to rezone this land as R3, because if you look at the neighborhood in that area, other than the one strip of houses, it's entirely R1. And so they're calling that one strip of houses a buffer to move from single-family homes into an apartment district. And so we felt it was inappropriate, and it doesn't follow along with the city's comprehensive plan when they speak about allowing for additional growth, yet maintaining the integrity of the existing communities and the existing people that live there. And so by changing this, I know that they speak of things like townhomes and single-family homes, but changing it to an apartment district allows them to build large-scale apartments there, and that's very concerning to me and the neighbors, not only for traffic, but also at the end of the next lane over, it attaches to the bike trail. So often in the summer, many kids use our neighborhood to get onto the bike trail, and as well as the soccer fields. So increasing traffic around that area also poses safety concerns for me and my family. We have a 4-year-old. One of the reasons we chose to move there was that it was on a quiet cul-de-sac without a lot of traffic. And by putting large-scale apartments, even if they're large-scale townhouses, it really takes away from the existing neighborhood.
Mike, can we pull up the? Okay.
So R3 is over here. R3 is the Moriarty Edgebrook addition, 17th Avenue, 20th Street South, goes all the way up. Here's the Reserve Edition, think of Camelot School here, 15th Street South, Christine Avenue, all the way down here. The Reserve Edition. R3 is technically titled an apartment multifamily district. That doesn't mean apartments are being constructed. Developments are going to the R3 zoning district because it provides the greatest flexibility from a lot area requirement, lot width requirement, front, rear, and side yard setbacks. And so that's part of why they chose that particular zoning district in this area, because they felt it gave them the greatest flexibility. It also gives them the ability to do the single family attached up to 4 units.
Mike, another question for you right away, and I know I'm some of the concerns that we've got here. Has the renditions been shown to the Planning Commission, and they've voted on this already, correct?
So the Planning Commission proposal, I think it was April 4th. In conjunction with that, they reviewed the preliminary plat and the large-scale residential development concept.
Okay.
The large-scale residential development concept, it's a timing issue, so that will come at your next council meeting when you have the public hearing and second reading on the rezoning request. If those are approved, then in conjunction with that, you would review and determine whether or not to approve the LSRD. The LSRD is just a motion and approval by the council, where rezoning is first readings by the city council. So it's timing them in conjunction. We can't run the LSRD at the first reading because you can't take action until the zoning action is taken. But the LSRD does show the development concept, the layout, the street networks, the housing units, the open space, the connections, all that.
All right.
And I did the Planning Commission, and I do see that there are a lot of those fourplexes, those two-level fourplex style townhouses. So those are similar to what would be by the middle school and things like that. And so I just don't feel like those fit in our neighborhood, because again, if you look at that map, it's almost all green other than that one strip of purple. And so having just like, those are duplexes, so they still blend in with the rest of the community, putting two-level fourplexes right next to our homes and the ones that live at the end of that street, even though they're, zoned R2, we are single-family homes that are high-value homes, and so putting large-scale townhouses right behind our homes has a big impact on us. And so my house is at the end of Bluegill, so if you kind of zoom in, it would be that one right there that you're hovering over, that is our home. And so this is townhouses literally in our backyard, and we're not talking about duplex townhouses. They have said a few different times that they're looking for two-story or potentially greater, because R3 could go higher than that, townhouses that are fourplexes. And so that would be a major change to the neighbors that we're used to and would increase traffic and things that I and the rest of the neighbors are not looking for in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Please state your name and address.
Speaking on behalf of the applicants, this project is a combination of single-family, two-family, and four-family townhomes. The goal of an intermixed neighborhood is really to create affordable workforce housing for Brookings residents that is owner-occupied. There will be a homeowners association that would maintain public areas of the entire project. So close proximity of homeowners is less of an issue when it's being managed by a homeowners association. So uniform lawn care standards, maintenance, sidewalks, snow removal services, all of that is part of the consideration for the project. In addition, because the four-family townhome is only acceptable in an R3 zoning, in spite of the fact that 1/3 of the total units in the development are those 4-unit townhomes, the rest are single-family and two-family. So it's anticipated to be a combination of about 1/3 single-family detached homes, 1/3 duplex, and 1/3 four-family townhomes. None of them would exceed 2 stories in height. Some of them are single-story. So the goal was to try and make an even buffer with the adjacent neighboring properties. Additionally, there will be a proposed bike trail extension along the west side of the project that would connect from the bike trails safely up to the soccer fields. And we've anticipated that that would be a wide buffer area so that there's not immediately at the back of curb kind of shared use. We'd have a boulevard prior to that. So we're taking all of those things into consideration as much as we can. Stand for any questions.
All right, thanks, Angie. Any other address this particular item? Seeing none, close public hearing. Is there any questions from council or Councilmember Wendell?
Thank you, Mayor. Large-scale residential development plan that has been approved through the Planning Commission. Will you just affirm publicly that if any modifications were to be made to that plan, it would have to be vetted through the Planning Commission and the council again, correct?
With significant revisions, yeah, to the large-scale residential development, if there's a significant change, I mean, there is flexibility as far as, let's say, for example, there's 150 units shown in there. If they go to 145 or to 155, that's within a certain parameter acceptance. If they start changing, you know, the major street networks that run internally, you'd want to bring that back to. It's also ran in conjunction with the preliminary plat process as well. So there are safeguards in place that if it changes significantly from the approved plan, then it has to come back through an amendment process.
So while the zoning allows maybe a wider array of options when you're trying to create density in this area, it would have to be vetted through staff, the commission, and the council if there were drastic changes made, like an apartment complex included by the developer in this plan.
Correct.
Another question that I had, and I know some concerns have been raised around traffic, and I think anytime you add additional density where there is not currently residential density, you think about traffic. Can you talk about the traffic safety planning that the developer has agreed to in this area and the role the staff has played in that so far?
So the developer is under contract with a traffic engineering company to perform a traffic impact study that will not only look at the particular traffic generated from this particular proposed development, but they'll model it and see if there are additional improvements within the vicinity of the existing street network that may need to be modified, adjusted. Could be things of potentially installation of controlled intersections to potentially a stoplight, looking at access management. And it could change how, right now there's proposed one access point on the 20th Street South. It could come back and say, as you know, engineering, the modeling says we need 2 access points, and it could potentially change how that northern portion is configured with the commercial area. We're also looking at, once you get internal, how do those intersections function when they start looking at your peak traffic demands at the AM and PM cycles.
I just wanted to note, tonight's not the first time I've heard concerns around some traffic patterns on Bluegill. And for those folks that live in that development, whether it's the volume of traffic or the turnarounds, was the Bluegill development, did they do a traffic study prior to the Bluegill development?
No, and actually Bluegill is our reason for incorporating secondary access requirements. They only had one access point for the western portion of Bluegill that was developed. As they started to move to the southeast, we had made some changes to our subdivision ordinance requiring secondary access, and they ultimately were able to achieve that with the development of the Arbor Hills development.
Thanks.
Member Specker?
I have 2 questions. The first one is connect to Bluegill.
There is a proposed connection on a couple of lots that were acquired by the development company approximately in this vicinity. That's the only connection to Bluegill. They do show a future connection up in this vicinity that would at some time to this particular property when they're ready to develop, or if they sell to a potential developer in the future. But what they would do is stub to the property line and wait until development is ready on the adjacent parcel. And then when they're ready for development, they can tie into the existing street network here and extend their utilities and develop the property as they see fit.
And I don't know if this is for you or Angie. Is of this going to be made public? Because I think that would settle a lot of people's concerns.
That's probably a question for the architect. That's not a requirement of the city's process to require rendering, so.
I think in time for the LSRD and the second reading, we could probably bring some of that along with us if needed. Yep.
I think that would be calm some.
Okay. All right, second reading next month or May 9th. And hopefully some of the questions that were asked or comments that were stated can be taken care of that meeting. We'll move on to item 10C, introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-013, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, 2.85 acres along 20th Street South. Mike Struck, our development director, will address this item.
Members of the council, ordinance 23-013 is a rezoning request to rezone area along 20th Street South, approximately 2.85 acres. This was the item that was on your previous agenda for an amendment to the future land use map to allow, that would support this rezoning request. With your prior action, the urban medium intensity would support a rezoning request to a B2, which this particular development is looking at incorporating potential neighborhood commercial services. With the interchange location at 20th Summer, we have seen quite a bit of interest in looking at commercial opportunities along the 20th Street South corridor. The primary focus has really been at some of our major intersections of 22nd Avenue and Main Avenue South. However, we had seen some interest along that corridor in appropriate locations for some smaller commercial opportunities, and this development is seeking that opportunity with the B2 zoning up here in the northernmost portion of this development. This does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the Development Review Team supports the request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mike. Are there any public comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, does council have any questions or comments? All right, move on. Second reading next week, or next month on the 9th. Item 10D, introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-014, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, Cree Village, Indian Hills Edition. Mike Struck, our community development director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members. The ordinance 23-014 is an ordinance to rezone an area along Main Avenue South and Trail Ridge Road. The development is proposing a planned development district with an underlying B2 zoning classification. This area was previously amended to allow the future land use as an urban medium intensity. They're planning a mixed use type concept with the building on the Main Avenue side seeking kind of a multi-tenant commercial parking on the main floor with 2 levels of residential, and then on the western portion incorporating more of a twin home 4-unit type housing opportunities. When you look at it, it's kind of one overall project, and that's why they want to seek the planned development district, because it all kind of coincides and flows together with some of the green space, the amenities, the parking, and the layout and flow and functionality of the site. The current zoning on the property is split zoning, with the western most portion being a B3 zoning, and the eastern half up along Main Avenue being an RB4. And as I mentioned previously, they would propose to go to a planned development district with the underlying B2 zoning designation. If approved, they will be coming forward with an initial development plan, and then ultimately a final development plan would be approved by the Planning Commission. With that, it does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the Development Review Team supports the request, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any public comment on this item? Any presentation or anything you want to do here? All right, we'll wait until next meeting. Council have any questions or comments on this item? All right, item 10E, introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-015, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings in the Prairie Hills Edition. Mike Struck will present this also.
This item is really a cleanup item in the Prairie Hills Edition. When we initially go through the the planning process. Developer want to get the zoning in place, and then they go through the preliminary plating stages, and then ultimately to the final plat stage. Sometimes boundary lines get a little bit off. This is simply a cleanup of zoning of where you have split zone lots. And so as you can see on the overhead map, you have the green and the blue, and it's going through the middle of lots. We're just trying to clean up the zoning to coincide with the actual platted lot lines. And then it just helps us from an administrative standpoint when we're looking at building permits and identifying the appropriate setbacks to apply for the particular lots. Primarily, they're looking at cleaning up some of the areas, taking it to either an R1B status or an R3 status, and then there's some B2 that is getting cleaned up on the northern end as well. So I would stand for any questions. Oh, this does come as a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. The Development Review Team supports, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
All right. Any public comment on this item? Any comments, council? Councilmember Specker.
I have a question. The lots on colored, is that because they didn't change from what the original zoning map is? Like between the red and the green, there's those two lots?
Essentially, is they really tried to highlight the lots on the right that are being changed or
Are
and
cut.
yeah, and so you're looking at some down zoning in some areas. So R3 is a higher density zoning, and they're looking to go to an R1B, which is a single family density. And then some of the areas in the upper right is just cleaning up some of the B2 zoning and reverting it to an R3 zoning. So if they're in white, they're not being affected.
Thanks.
Other questions by council? Comment? That item again also on May 9th. All right. Introduction and first reading on ordinance 23-016, an ordinance to change the zoning in the city of Lemons, Prairie Hills Edition also.
This is very similar to the previous edition. It's just cleaning up the maps. One area deals with R3 to R1B. The other's more of the B2 to an R3 district. I could go through the same spiel, but this does come to you with a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission, and the Development Review Team does support it. And it's just cleaning up the zoning to follow the actual lot lines. I'd stand for any questions you may have.
All right. Any questions, comments from the public? Same with council. All right. Other business. We are going to go right into the progress report that our Deputy City Manager, Jake Meschke, will present.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. That was completed this Monday. Now complete, about 690,000 pounds, as I understand. So congratulations to John and his crew in Public Works, as well as those out at the landfill, Parks Department, and all else who are involved. We do have several days of free dumping out at the landfill yet through April 29th. So if there are any residents that have some of the spring cleanup that they're doing at home, feel free to head out to the Brookings landfill and get rid of those items. We do have the real-time tracker, which was a great tool again this year. Now that it's complete, it shows 100% done, and it provides some of the statistics there. At a future progress report, we will bring back some more of the statistics from this particular cleanup efforts. But again, good job to John and his staff. Plenty going on in the public works realm, especially in engineering. One of the things that we've added this year is this Brookings Community Construction Info webpage. The link is available within the progress report. It's also available through the city website if you go to the current initiatives tab, and this provides a good update and overview of all the projects that the city is doing, as well as BMU. So again, kudos to John and Charlie and the collaboration there with BMU to keep our residents informed, which will be a very busy construction season this year. A couple of topics, or a couple of projects specifically. I-29, the work started back up again on April 10th, and we're targeting completion, substantial completion of that in July of this year. 20th Street South, the temporary water has been installed and the street has been closed starting April 17th. That project is targeted to complete in November of 2024. 22nd Avenue reconstruction starting in early May and planning to target completion this year in November of 2023. Engineering again, continuing on University Boulevard starting in May 2023, completing in November of 24. Chip seal will start in August of this year. Overlays will be done by November of this year. Sidewalk repairs are continuing on. The work has resumed and planning to complete those in July of 23. Couple of plans that are being done by the engineering division. Stormwater master plan with a target completion of July of 23. 6 Mile Creek with a target completion of June 2024. There's been a year-long extension requested on that as we look to work closely with FEMA to better understand and develop some of the updated mapping that they're proposing. Floodplain development, we're shooting for the May study session to bring that back to City Council to talk about different floodplain development standards. A number of projects in the Solid Waste Division of Public Works. Leachate Vault construction. I've been completing some survey, planning to start construction in May with a completion in June of this year. Leachate Force Main to Sanitary Sewer, which will be a larger scale project. They're in the conceptual design phase at this point. Planning to have the plans completed in this year and construction in 2024 and 2025. There are a number of reports being done out there as well and studies. Solid Waste Master Plan, the draft is being developed as we speak and targeting August of 2023 for finalization and presentation to City Council. Master Fill Plan, targeting completion of that in October of this year as well. Congratulations to our Chief Building Official, Jared Thomas. Jared is the city's first certified building official. He had to go through several different modules and subsequent testing there within, focusing on codes and standards, management, as well as legal. As part of that and previous to that, Jared is also a certified residential building inspector and a certified commercial building inspector. The certification status through the International Code Council ensures staff are knowledgeable and trained to perform proper inspection and administration of building codes to promote safety throughout our community. Congratulations again, Jared. A number of great options or great recognitions here within the police department. As part of the South Dakota Sheriff's and Police Chiefs Awards, Officer Bonema was named as the South Dakota Officer of the Year statewide, and Officer Asmus was awarded a service award, both for their outstanding contributions to the police department and our community. The department recognized our national telecommunicators or our dispatchers on April 9th through 15th. They did a cookout for them and did some other recognition efforts to remind them how vital and valuable they are to our community. And they also held a Coffee with a Cop session on April 19th at Cottonwood Coffee. NOMO May, the signs at least continue to be popular. The question there was, are yard signs still available? And they are not. We gave out our last 2 this afternoon. We had originally ordered 100 of them. They went very quickly. We ordered an additional 50. Those have gone quickly, and now Sustainability Council is looking at ordering another 50, as this has been a very popular program. We expected not to give out this many signs, so we're happy to see folks participating. As a reminder, this is a voluntary program for residents to participate in if they want to, and it is to support bees and other pollinators as we're looking at the critical month of May for habitat building. As a reminder to anyone participating, yards must be back in compliance by June 7th, so at the conclusion of May, everyone has 1 week to get back in compliance before code enforcement officers will be out inspecting. A number of items in Parks and Recreation. The Edgebrook Golf Course is open, both 9s as well as the short course, and carts are available. Registration is available for summer programs. As you can see on the progress report, there's a direct link there. You can also find that link by going through our website. We are opening a number of different parks facilities. Restrooms are currently open in Pioneer, Lyons, Arrowhead, Moriarty, Hillcrest, Bob Sheldon, Southbrook, Larson, and Sexauer, and others will be open here in the very near future. There again are a number of Arbor Day festivities planned. Trees will be getting delivered to 3rd graders throughout the communities. There will be trees handed out at the Arbor Day 5K. The remaining trees will be available for pickup at the City County building thereafter. And again, we will have that tree planting in the park, Pioneer Park, with the time to be determined. Other than that, we've had a very successful urban forest initiative this year. We went to a new voucher system as opposed to doing cash reimbursement. What that allowed was residents to pick up the voucher. Local businesses were participating. They can then take that voucher to that business, and then the business will invoice the city directly. It made for a much more smooth accounting process for the city. Shout out to Ashley and our Parks Department for coming up with that new process. We did have a $25,000 budget, which equated to 200 vouchers that we gave out within a week. So we will have to examine that program. We're happy to see that everyone is taking advantage of it. The library was awarded a national grant through the American Library Association, the Peggy Barber Tribute Grant, and $2,500. As I mentioned, there was only 3 of those awarded throughout the country, and the Brookings Library was one of those selected for the Visibility Project. The Visibility Project is a disability awareness and outreach initiative. It will establish programs that accommodate the needs of patrons with disabilities, including crafts, board and yard games, and sensory ability-friendly yoga classes. The initiative will also provide a Q&A session with local panelists with varying disabilities, an information session on the South Dakota Library's Braille and Talking Books collection, a documentary screening, disability etiquette, and ADA basics training, and more. They also held their giant Candyland, which you can see pictured here. It was held over the Brookings spring break, targeting students and the young folks. We did have 54 that participated in that, and it was a very good time. Lastly, the Swiftel Center had 36 event days in April. A couple of large events there was the Hairball concert that had 1,178 attendees, as well as the South Dakota FFA State Association. It was a 3-day event with 3,000 attendees. I might have a correction. 20th Street South, is that going to be November 2023 or 2024? Okay. So yeah, November 20. I saw that look, John.
All right, is that it, Jake? All right, so next meeting. Okay. We'll have a certificate election and oath of office for our newest member. And consent agenda, we got wine renewals, casino renewal, ex officio reports, solid waste master plan by John, proclamation, National Travel and Tourism Week, Laura from Visit Brookings. As of right now, we have no contracts or change orders, no first readings, and of course, we got quite a few second readings next time. With that being said, does any council members have anything they want to bring forward? Okay. I guess entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?